we feel like we have a lot of great champions working on your behalf in DC and here in Louisiana. And so we're glad to have a few of those folks on with us today and to share some important information on some important subjects that are affecting you now and in the coming year. So I want to first start though by thanking our sponsors. Cox Business, has been a come again every year sponsor with us, and we're just so proud to have folks like this. Our partners help us reach out to our members and reach out and do our grassroots efforts, and so doing that keeps folks educated and keeps everybody informed, and it's just an important part of what we do. We are able to elevate what we're doing whenever we partner with other folks. And so what we're going to do now is share a couple of videos from our sponsors, first from Cox Business and then from Whitney Bank. I want to start by saying Cox Business wasn't able to join us live or via video message today, but Lee King, their VP of the business unit, has been a tremendous advocate for small business and a tremendous asset to helping get businesses the help they need. And so this is just a little video they had put together and asked us to share on their behalf. And so we're going to do that to let you see that, and then we'll move to the next video. Carlos, if you could get that one going, that would be great. And I just want to note too, while we're doing this, to let everybody know that we are recording this event so that it can also be shared for those who weren't able to join live today. Okay, go ahead, Carlos.
Working on desktops and mobile devices, using all kinds of business and personal applications. And let's not forget the people working from home or wherever. And a lot of this business is still powered by an on-prem network of servers and databases, supported by an IT manager who is typically very, very stressed. Why all the worry? Well, it's his job to keep a whole bunch of business critical things alive and well, with limited time, resources, or budget. And things only grow in volume and complexity with each new hire. So how do Cox Business Cloud Solutions, powered by RapidScale technology, help remove all the mess and stress? In a word, easily. First of all, let's take all of those servers, databases, and applications and move them right to the cloud. Now, let's help keep the bad guys out with robust multi-layered security. And even if something or someone pops up and threatens to gum up the works, Advanced Disaster Recovery helps keep things up and running. So now we have this secure, almost unstoppable ecosystem. We just need to connect everyone, everywhere, to it. You guessed it, we've got you covered there too. RapidScale and Cox Business excel in application delivery, ensuring data and communications reliably work and move at lightning speed. And get this, the entire shebang is easily visible and controlled through a single pane of glass portal. And our experts help you co-manage or even manage your entire system for you. And we stand by you with 24/7 support if you ever need anything. Manage cloud services from Cox Business Cloud Solutions, powered by RapidScale. Securely collaborate from virtually anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
The one I was with her on.
Hey there.
Okay, a lot of the stuff that seems to take up a lot of your time. Like this.
We're stopping that one, and so we're getting all these videos in. Lee King sent that over again. Cox is a great partner, and they are doing their very best to help service the small businesses here in the state. So we appreciate their support and partnership throughout these years. And our next video, we'll move to the next one, is with Hancock Whitney.
Like last
If you want
Thursday,
to go ahead and play that.
Back,
and for those of you who have just joined us, if you are not on mute, please mute yourself. And Carlos, if you could go ahead and play the video from Hancock Whitney. Our partners there, and we'll hear from them, and then we'll get started with Congressman Johnson right after that. Be about 1 minute, a little bit over a minute.
Good morning. I am Jerry Denicola with Hancock Whitney Bank. I manage our commercial and business banking group in the greater Baton Rouge area. I'm thrilled to be able to represent Hancock Whitney and partner with NFIB for its grassroots outreach program this morning. As I hope many of you already know, Hancock Whitney is a full-service relationship bank with our footprint spanning 5 states, from Dallas, Texas to Sarasota, Florida, and 100 retail locations in Louisiana alone. My group specializes in working with small businesses, so we're very familiar with the successes and challenges that you all experience in your business. As I can imagine, most of you have been through many challenges in 2020, like our customers have. We've been able to work with them to provide solutions to help in sustaining their business. I invite you to check out our website at hancockwhitney.com to explore and learn about all of the offerings we have for small businesses with deposit accounts, term loans and lines of credit, cash management, and merchant services solutions. You can also contact me directly at jerry.denicola@hancockwhitney.com, and I will partner you with one of our experienced team members. Thank you for joining the program today, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jerry, and we really appreciate, again, all of our partners for helping us make this possible today and all of our outreach. I believe we have Congressman Johnson on the phone with us. Do we? I know we have his staff. Congressman Johnson, are you unmuted? Are you on yet? I know we were getting you right around 12:15. I mean, excuse me, 10:15. So he's going to be up next, but just to tee it up, I think we have Kevin Coleman on the phone with us as well. Kevin is our VP of Government, Federal Government Relations, and works out of our DC office. Kevin, are you on?
I am. Thank you, Dawn.
Hey, great. Well, thank you for all the great work you've been doing for our members here in Louisiana and up in DC, and advocating on their behalf there. And we know that y'all have just kind of gotten on the other side of this election deal, and we're hoping to pass a lot of things at the congressional level in DC. I know we are going to get an update from Congressman Johnson when he joins us, but do you have anything you might want to share with the members here in Louisiana until he comes on?
Sure. I mean, I think what I'll share that our legislative priorities before the end of the year, we have 2 primary ones. One is the goal to get targeted additional financial assistance in a COVID recovery package. We also hope to restore the deductibility of PPP forgiven expenses and overturn that problematic IRS guidance from earlier this year. We'd like to see streamlined forgiveness, and I think the sponsor would like to see that as well, of those PPP loans that have already been exhausted and are ready to apply for forgiveness. And we'd like to see the better interaction between the Paycheck Protection Program and the other programs, such as the EIDL advanced emergency grants, making sure that people are not left with small PPP loans if they took out both, and the employee retention tax credit to provide small businesses with maximum liquidity. Currently, you can, if you take advantage of the PPP, you cannot take advantage of the employee retention tax credit, and vice versa. So we're looking to get some fixes in that. Both the Majority Leader, McConnell, in the Senate, and the Speaker have said they are interested in getting something before the end of the year, but the policy differences remain very stark. So I'd like to temper expectations. We're going to push for a bill before the end of the year, but it will be an uphill climb based on the policy differences. Finally, the National Defense Authorization Act is by the end of the year. The NDAA, we want to make sure an amendment that was added that would have a new reporting burden on small businesses is left out of that package. This one would require every business with 20 or fewer employees to file annual reports with the Department of Treasury, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network specifically, with their personal information. So we're just trying to make sure that that small business paperwork mandate that has nothing to do with national defense stays out of the defense bill. And then we're gearing up for the new Congress. I think the election results of a close majorities or tight majorities in both houses will mean that there won't be an ambitious agenda. We're going to look for places where we can hit good singles and doubles. as well as where we have to play defense. I think it'll be much like the second administration of the Obama administration, the pen and the phone regulatory environment. We're going to have to do that. I think one thing that should be on everyone's radar is be prepared for OSHA emergency temporary standards, new enforcement standards on small business in response to COVID. That's something that's on our radar in addition to any sort of extension or expansion of the regulatory expansion of the paid sick and paid family and medical leave mandates that were created in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So that's kind of the next 4 or 5 months for us. We are always open to member input. Please let Dawn, Carlos, or myself know how we can be helpful or issues that are on your mind. We would love to be helpful. We had a good pro small business election result in Louisiana at the federal level with the representatives of the re-election of many representatives, including Congressman Johnson and Senator Cassidy. So we're very much looking forward to connecting with them in the new Congress. And thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you for joining us, Kevin, and pitching in there. I think we had one other person join us, and I want to just ask Congressman Johnson, are you on yet? Okay, not quite. I know he was juggling a few things this morning. His staff, Claire, I believe, is on, and if she could just check with him and let us know when he does join us. Hey.
So I just talked to him, and he should be joining soon.
Okay, perfect. I knew he's always on time, and so great. And Kevin, you are, the things you mentioned are so important because we know that with this, this change in the Congress, we're going to have to experience some interesting things, and we have experienced a lot of pro-regulatory things happening in the past 4 years. So I know that was one of the feedback items from our members throughout the surveys as we and our optimism in the past year about how much they appreciated that regulatory relief. And so to make that aware, or make folks aware of that, is very important because it's something that just creeps up on them. And that's why, being a member of NFIB is good, and being involved is good, because you can know about these kind of things as they kind of are coming at you, because they do these things overnight in DC, right?
Certainly. I think, especially on that OSHA emergency temporary standard I mentioned, that's probably going to be usually regulations take 30 days for comments or 60 days for comments, and then a longer runway, 3 months for finalization and implementation. This requirement would be a 7-day implementation. It would be like that we'd have new enforcement standards on small businesses. One resource I'd love to point out that we have at the federal level are they're like every other week now, and I think they're taking the week of Thanksgiving off, but our bi-weekly webinars with Beth Melito, Holly Wade, and they have rotating experts come on with them. They are great resources, very heavy focus on PPP forgiveness right now. Also, the paid leave obligations, they go through that. And should those emergency temporary standards be implemented in the beginning of a new administration, they certainly would provide guidance for how to be compliant with those. We've seen this in the state of Virginia already, but that is one that would be scaled. But certainly, I think on your note on our surveys, Dawn, is the Small Business Optimism Index is right near kind of historic levels, historic highs. It's rebounded nicely from near historic lows around April and May. But the uncertainty portions of that index are at an all-time high. I think that is, to your point, with a lot of the worries about new regulations coming in, worries about new policies of a new administration, and knowing that they may have to, small business owners may be going back into their defensive crouch from memories of the second term of the Obama administration, when there were a divided Congress and you had the pen and the phone administration. So I'll turn it back over to you because I think our guest may have joined.
I think so. Congressman Johnson, are you on? Let's be sure you're unmuted. But
I'm on. I'm so sorry about that. I couldn't get the video to work. I don't know. I'm very frustrating. Apologize.
No, you're great. Well, we have your picture up on the screen. If we don't get your face, that's totally fine.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I haven't taken a good photo since 1987, so that's terrible.
This one is from 1987.
Probably so. Probably so.
Thank you for joining us. We know you're busy right now. We know y'all have a lot going on. And Kevin was just kind of talking a little bit about what we're working on at the federal level, which I know you hear all about. And I just want to first start out by thanking you for everything you've done for us this Congress. We haven't had an opportunity to recognize you live in Louisiana for this, but you are a Guardian Award winner. Our Guardian Awards are reserved for lawmakers who vote with us consistently and protect and champion the cause of small business. And you were 100% with us this Congress, and we can't thank you enough for that. We hope you've gotten your statue, and we just want to recognize your always being there for small business. It's an important part of what we do. Kevin's got it in the video.
It will be delivered as soon as we can get into those House office buildings, Congressman. I promise.
Yeah, sometime in mid 2021. That'd be
Could
that'd
be.
great.
Could be.
No, thank you all for that. This is one of those things we get a lot of little awards, but I really do prize this one. And this is at the heart of our philosophy and what we believe. And I mean, in Louisiana and in my district, small business is the primary source of jobs. I mean, it's 9 out of 10 jobs are small businesses, and or more, maybe more than that. And so it's critical to us. We're small business owners. I grew up in and around small business, my family, and so part of the problem we have in Congress, as y'all know, is that a lot of the policymakers have no frame of reference for this whatsoever. They've never had to work on a balance sheet or balance a budget in a business or make payroll or any of that. And so they make policies sometimes that are very harmful to free enterprise, and they don't really understand what it is they're doing. And so it's an education process that we have constantly. We're trying to do that. And I chaired the Republican Study Committee this Congress, and we try to focus a lot on our policy production. We put together a playbook to run when we get the majority, and things we're going to work on in this interim period. And a lot of it is focused on that, just freeing up the free market and allowing entrepreneurs and risk takers and job creators to do what they do. If the government will get out of the way, we'll all be a lot better off. And so I hope this new administration, if it is Biden, and I'm not throwing the towel in yet, I hope that we can hold them back and rolling back a lot of the tax cuts and regulatory cuts and all that. And I think we can.
That's great. We have, one of the biggest concerns, and that's kind of what we were talking about as you were coming on, was the regulatory piece, because that impacts small business owners so quickly when they do these things at the executive level overnight, and there's not enough time for people to understand, and then they get hung up on the other side of that. What do you see kind of going forward as the best way to fight against that?
Well, the best way to fight against it is put all our resources into Georgia right now. We hold
Yeah.
that Senate. That's the safety valve, obviously. And
Yeah.
I've been on the phone even this morning with colleagues figuring out how we're going to do that and help. We have these legal challenges ongoing in a number of states, and some of them are there's a lot of merit to this, very meritorious. I think that clearly we're going to be able to show some pretty broad scale regularity. Will it be enough to overturn any of these states? I don't know. We have that's yet to be determined, but the recounts and that kind of thing have to proceed, and we got to take it to its full extent. We got to exhaust every legal remedy. I talked to the president most recently on Sunday night and reiterated to him how important this is to our base, and not just to Republican voters and his supporters, but to every American. If we don't have faith in the system itself, then what do we have? And people will just stay home. They won't vote anymore because they won't think it matters. So we have to see this through. But let's assume in worst case scenario that that this is the outcome. Biden is the president. He takes office. As long as we have the Senate, obviously, we have a safety valve there, and we are going to narrow Pelosi's majority in the House to a very thin margin. I mean, we had a banner night for our team in the House, and we've got some really solid new members coming in, and the most diverse class of Republicans we've ever had. Some stars that are joining us, and we're super excited about that. And we're going to be completely unified. I found out last week I'm running unopposed to be vice chairman of the Republican conference in the House, and I've been making calls for last week, just solidifying all that. We vote on it early next week, but there's just a lot of energy and excitement. Some people would think the Republican team in the House is being rejected. It's the opposite. I mean, we're gearing up, and we expect we're going to have a red tsunami in 2022. If all this goes the way it should. So what we're going to do right now is play defense. We're going to hold the line. Whatever crazy concoction that Pelosi and team come up with in the House will be dead on arrival in the Senate. And I don't think McConnell and team are going to go along with adding, raising taxes dramatically and adding layers of new federal regulation. I just don't think they're going to go along with it. So if President Biden tries to overplay his hand and use executive order authority in a way that is unconstitutional, the other safety valve we have, of course, is the courts now. The president put almost 250 federal judges on the bench at every level, and these are originalists and strict constructionists, and they're not going to allow it. So it's not the doomsday scenario that we all thought it may be. It's not going to be a lot of fun, but I think government is gridlocked, and that's not a bad thing right now.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing, and I know our members kind of can appreciate that sometimes whenever it's frustrating for them. But we were talking about how the uncertainty of not knowing about this executive order authority and such will be used or abused is, gives them that, tight feeling in their chest. And when they have that, they end up not investing. They don't add jobs. They don't grow. And if they're fearful that you're going to roll back, tax reform and that sort of thing, and they're not going to have that liquidity, especially now with, the scenario with the economic downturn, what do you do? So I know that you hear that, and congratulations on your role. That's very exciting. And, as you know, we're a bipartisan organization, but sometimes it feels like we, things kind of have got small business issues have somehow gotten partisan, and we certainly don't want that, but we support you in your role because it's an important role you play in leadership there in Congress, and we're glad for Louisiana to have you there.
Well, I appreciate that, and look, this is I play a partisan role because I have this, I was chair of the Republican Study Committee, and I'll be vice chair of the conference, but at the same time, I'm still the co-chair of the Honor and Civility Caucus, and my greatest desire is to work on these things in a bipartisan fashion. I mean, we work on that. We try to get members together. We have events on the Hill, which we try to build understanding and across the aisle. And but the reality is, you always just become increasingly difficult to do because of this environment that we're in right now. And there are newer members of Congress who have no intention whatsoever of working together. They loathe the free enterprise system. They think it's an evil, and they're trying to dismantle it. And so it's really not about R versus D. It's about freedom versus socialism, literally. I mean, as we know. And so it's a philosophical battle, but we do it in the right manner. I think the American people are waking up. I think they understand the value of small business, the value of economic opportunity and mobility for more people. And I think they're beginning to see that giving more control to the federal government is not the route to get there. That's not going to get us there. It's going to be the opposite. I was in town halls and events the last few weeks around the state, and people are starting to gather again. And I put up on my little slideshow, I put a picture of the border of Venezuela. The week before Easter 2 years ago, we went down on a congressional trip. And the day that we stood on that border, there was 25,000 people that are fleeing Venezuela to go into Colombia, which is no oasis, right? But the reason they were going there is because their government's collapsed, and their currency the day we were there was at 1,000,000% inflation rate, and they couldn't buy bread. They have hospitals or running water or lights. It's because the socialists took over the government. And we walked up about 100 paces from that border after we'd seen all that human misery, and we saw this giant warehouse full of aisles and aisles and aisles of boxes of aid. And we walked up close, and translators are explaining what that is. They said inside these boxes is baby formula and diapers and food supplies and non-perishables. And look right here, and stamped on each box it says USAID, USA, a gift from the American people. And they said, thank you, members of Congress in the U.S., because you're the only nation in the world that is here helping in this humanitarian crisis. And it's because of our system, because of the strength of our economy and the ability that we have here to have freedom and to build and expand and grow. And if we become more like Venezuela, who's going to help us? No one.
No.
In fact, we'll be taken over by China and the rest. So don't get me started. I'm too animated this morning. I'm so grateful for what y'all do and so grateful for your voice. And it's one of the most important ones on Capitol Hill. And I'm committed to help you in any way we can, and we'll keep fighting.
Well, thank you for your time. I know you have other things to get to. And again, congratulations on your role and congratulations on your Guardian Award. And Kevin will get it to you. He will not hold it hostage. And we hope to see you soon, whether it be here in Louisiana. Thank you, Congressman.
Well, thank you. We'll prominently display that in the front office, and you'll come see us as soon as they release us to visit again. We look forward to it.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, so now
You
we're
got
going
it.
to get.
God bless.
God bless. Now we're going to move on to Senator Mike Reese, who is on the call with us. State Senator Mike Reese is newly elected, although he probably doesn't feel new and shiny anymore after 3 sessions. This new legislature that just came in just got inaugurated earlier this year, and so it's been a wild ride for them. And we can't be more thankful for folks like Senator Reese, who are business owners, who is a small business member and understands what everybody's going through on this call. Really gets it because he does it. So thank you, Senator Reese, for joining us. He's going to talk to us about unemployment. He's been the champion for unemployment this time around, and in the special session when we realized we had a major problem on our hands. And he's really become kind of, I feel like, the resident expert on this subject in the Senate. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're to have a smart, proactive business owner involved in this is so important. So I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you to give us an update, talk to us about unemployment. This is an important thing that a lot of folks don't really understand day to day. So kind of tell us what all you were able to accomplish.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Dawn, for letting me join you and your members of NFIB today. As a small business owner myself, I suspect I was like a lot of your members in that I never had any reason whatsoever to know what the balance was in the unemployment trust fund. We just conducted our business. We paid into the fund, and we knew when workers became unemployed, there was a benefit that they received, and that system just worked. And so when I was elected to the Senate and became the vice chair of the Labor Committee in the Senate, one of the bright shining stars in our state was our unemployment trust fund balance. We had more than $1 billion in the fund. It was very healthy, and it was allowing us to fund incumbent worker training and a lot of other programs that some of your members have probably benefited from in the past. But with the onset of COVID and the government regulation that came with it and the shutdowns that followed, created a run on unemployment and left a lot of workers unemployed. In addition to that, we had the federal supplement to unemployment that I believe probably kept people on unemployment longer than perhaps they would have otherwise, and had a further negative impact on our unemployment trust fund. And so we went from a very healthy balance of more than $1 billion to a program that's now insolvent. And so in current law, the program falling below $100 million would have triggered a number of very negative impacts on our small business owners in the state of Louisiana and large businesses alike. One of the things that would have triggered is the solvency tax. The solvency tax, when we draw below $100 million, would have increased taxes on businesses next year to the tune of about $60 million, which would have been a huge headwind to our businesses who are still struggling to recover and employ people. The other negative impact was that it would have lowered the benefits paid to the unemployed from $247 a week to $221 a week, and it would have increased the amount of payroll that businesses pay that unemployment tax on from $7,700 to $8,800. And so all those would have been very detrimental. In addition, it is a payroll tax, so it's an additional tax every small business pays as they hire additional workers, and so. All of that would have been very negative during a period of time where we're trying to rebuild our economy. So our Senate president and sponsor 3 pieces of legislation in this last special session to resolve that issue for at least this year. Number one is that we temporarily suspended the solvency tax. That temporarily suspends that additional $60 million in taxes for next calendar year that our businesses would have been impacted by. And we chose to suspend it as opposed to repealing it because it is our only mechanism in law to repay the money that we're borrowing from the federal government. So repealing that tax permanently would have impacted our ability to continue to borrow funds from the federal government. So, the suspension was the right tool to use at the right time, but it's something we'll have to address in the next regular session. The second thing we did was suspended the law that requires REC to certify a fund balance, because certifying that fund balance in September every year is what triggers the solvency tax, and it triggers the increase in the amount of payroll that businesses pay that tax on. So we suspended the requirement that REC do that. And so absent the solvency tax and absent REC certifying the fund balance, the administrator of the fund needed to know how to apply those taxes and benefits in 2021. And so that's where we came in with Senate Bill 55. And Senate Bill 55 directs the administrator, just in calendar year 2021, to apply the same procedures that were used in 2020. So that keeps the benefits at $247 a week. It keeps the amount of payroll that businesses pay the tax on at the first $7,700 of wages. And so businesses will see that the exact same plan implemented in 21 as they experienced in 2020. So I think that all of these tools, absent, obviously we are anticipating that we'll get additional federal CARES Act dollars to potentially help make that fund healthy again. We may have to apply additional general fund dollars from the state of Louisiana to help make that plan healthy again. But even absent any anticipation that we were going to get additional funding, I still think it was the right move to do, because again, we need to really focus on helping our small businesses in Louisiana become healthy again, to rehire those that have been unemployed, and we don't want to create any headwind to that happening. So as of a couple of weeks ago, we had borrowed a little over $100 million from the federal government. Now, in the last special session, we also, through the supplemental spending bill, appropriated $85 million, and that has not yet been reflected in that loan balance with the federal government. So the governor just signed that bill last week. We'll apply that $85 million. But we'll really need your members to make sure that they're involved in the next regular session, because I'm not for implementing these things that are going to continue to be headwinds to our small businesses, and we're very open to recommendations from you and your members about how best to address this issue in our next regular session, so that again we don't do things that are going to cause detrimental impact to our small businesses, be able to hire and be able to regrow the economy in Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great rundown, because as you started out saying, there's so many people that don't think of it on the daily basis. That's the biggest issue. And so we've been trying to get the word out. We shared, I think you probably got alerts from our members during session about that. We were trying to educate folks to say, look, this is happening and this is what we're doing, and trying to support. And I think the biggest thing is going forward. I mean, for you, what do you see as the biggest kind of hurdle to achieving the goal of not creating those headwinds?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is receiving additional federal aid to replenish those funds. There's more than 20 states around the country right now that are in the same position, where they're borrowing funds from the federal government. And so we're all going to be in that position. This is not the result of businesses making bad choices. This is the result of government coming in and mandating businesses reduce occupancies, close for a period of time. And so I believe it's incumbent upon the government that did that to help make this whole, without placing that burden on the backs of our small business owners and the backs of those that are unemployed. So, I think it's really incumbent upon us to work with our congressional delegation to get some of that relief from the federal government as well.
Well, and I know you enjoy a great relationship with Congressman Johnson. I know you are up there together in that area, and we do have a great congressional delegation in Louisiana. So we're very hopeful that they'll continue to work on our behalf. We opposed in DC that addition of those additional funds, early on. So don't make it that much. This is going to hurt small business, and we've had that feedback from our members throughout our survey process. Absolutely. Because they see it. They see it happening. They see folks not wanting to come back, and they're struggling because these folks, our members, are saying, we want people to not be unemployed and not be able to feed their families, but we don't have a job for them right now. So it's been a bit of a catch-22, like you said, nobody's fault, but certainly put us in a bad box. So I really appreciate that update. I know we have a Representative Davis. Are you on the call? Have you joined us yet? I'm going to touch base with her too. I wanted to also ask you, you are in an important role on Senate Labor Committee, Senator Reese. I know
Certainly.
we spent a lot of time in that committee, and I just wanted to maybe get your feedback on what you kind of see from the perspective of what happens going forward in next session on labor issues. Again, these mandates and these type of things that we've fought against, minimum wage, paid sick leave. How do you see that, going forward in the Senate?
Well, I mean, I highly anticipate seeing bills come forward next session that probably address all the things you just mentioned. As you saw in this last special session, both of the last special sessions and the first regular session of this year, there was a good bit of discussion about independent contractor status. And so there's a task force that was set up in the last special to study that issue and to recommend changes to that program. There's some that still believe that there's a lot of misclassification that goes on. And I think my desire is that we don't do anything that's inconsistent with the standards and the testing where we identify somebody's status as being an independent contractor that's different from the federal standard and the federal test. Because I think that's what we have now. We have a little bit different way to test that in Louisiana than the federal standard is, and than other states do. And I don't think we want to place that kind of burden on our small businesses to meet multiple different standards for classification of employees versus contractors.
That's a big issue. It's a big issue for small business owners. I think the PPP program brought out a lot of that, brought out the realization of who qualifies, what happens, and how do we go about dealing with it. So we're going to be lucky to have you on that committee and helping be a voice for small business, being sure that, nothing that we do here at the state level puts that additional burden, creates those additional headwinds, as you say, on small business trying to recover and get going. So, yeah, thank you so much. I know you're busy with your own business and everything and popping in and out of things. So we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for joining you.
Yeah, absolutely. And please feel free to stay on. We're going to jump to Representative Davis now. She is the chairwoman of the House Commerce Committee, and kind of like Senator Reese, she's in her second term, but they had a really wild ride that first term that they had. So I feel like I feel like everybody's
I do feel for my friend Senator Reese and Senator Mcmaster. However, I calculated yesterday, Dawn, that I think since 2016, since I was the first elected, we've now been through 15 sessions.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yes, that is completely nuts. That's equivalent to 15 if we were in normal years. 15 sessions. It's just unbelievable. What we have been through, but I have the great honor of serving as the Commerce Committee Chair. Like Dawn mentioned, I was first elected in 2015, and I was reelected in 2019, and then I was appointed by the Speaker of the House to chair Commerce. And I was so excited to receive that committee because a lot of people don't know I'm a third generation small business owner. I still own family businesses with my three brothers and my dad. So I see the regulatory hurdles and the legislative hurdles that are put up daily when it comes to small businesses and just moving forward. Some of my key responsibilities as the Commerce Committee Chair, of course, are regulatory issues and then oversight of small business issues. We focus on how can we help small businesses. Of course, we know here in Louisiana, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. So how can we and how can I, as chair of the committee, promote policies that unleash the economic growth of small business? We want to get rid of red tape, not create red tape, so that small business can continue to grow and people can feel like they can come into Louisiana and Louisiana is not a burden to do business in. Some of the issues that we dealt with in the past year, which is crazy because it seems like this year has been so long and we've been through 3 sessions. And Dawn, I'm sure you have informed your members, I know you have, that we've had issues come before our committee regarding streamlining licensing. Representative Julie Emerson has worked on that for several years. There are many, many issues involved with that, and I know that she's going to continue to do that. So those are some things that's something I think is going to continue to go through 2021 through 2024. This past session, we were able to extend some deadlines for programs like Quality Jobs and I believe it was Mike Reese's bill, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, that we extended certain job creation requirements for enterprise zone incentives and quality job incentive rebates. So we extended those dates because of COVID, and I believe that was Senator Reese's bill. My committee also dealt with broadband issues. We're now going to have housed within the Office of the Governor a broadband commission. We're going to have an executive director. So that's going to be great for just looking at the deployment of broadband, have a mapping initiative, see where we're lacking in Louisiana with broadband availability, the availability of public and private grants for broadband, see if we have to appropriate some funds. So we do have some issues with broadband that have started. Representative Desatel and Senator Mizell have been fantastic champions in that broadband arena. And of course, we have seen, and the need for access to broadband has been heightened because of COVID. And, everybody's working from home. Schools are still operating out of home. So the need for that is extremely, extremely important. Something that I thought was going to be, that was pretty simple, that I had no idea didn't even exist, were virtual meetings. In the Business Corporations Law, there is no place for corporations to have virtual meetings, which I thought, well, wow, why can't you just do that? So Franklin Foyle and I both had bills to expand the Business Corporations Law so that it can allow corporations and banks to have their shareholder meetings virtually. Never thought that was something I'd have to do legislatively, but it is, and it's something that we got done. Going forward, I think our key priorities, of course, for commerce are going to continue to be broadband issues. Representative Desatel has a commission, a task force that he has put together to further look at obstacles in the way of deploying broadband in the rural areas. And of course, other things that we're going to keep our eye on as legislators are tax reform. I know that Representative Zarang, who is chair of the Appropriations Committee, had a flat tax bill in 2019, and I believe that he is going to bring that bill back, maybe with some tweaks in the 2021 session. And then also some regulatory reform. I think that we've seen during COVID, it's amazing how sometimes we see that government can work a little more quickly than it usually does. We've been able to either waive some licensing fees and things of that nature. So I think that we have some regulatory reform on the horizon. And like Senator Reese said, we're really going to look to the members of NFIB to counsel us and to make suggestions on what they think that those regulatory reforms are going forward. We welcome that input greatly because we all know that small businesses are disproportionately impacted by regulatory costs. And again, we want to get rid of the red tape that exists for businesses to come to Louisiana or for small businesses to expand in Louisiana, not to create red tape. So we're looking forward to working with Dawn and the NFIB members in the next session. And again, we welcome any suggestions that your members have that would make doing business in Louisiana much easier than it possibly has been in the past. And I know that NFIB and especially Dawn have over the past few years championed the streamlining of the sales tax system here in Louisiana, which I think is greatly needed. And I applaud her efforts on that. And I'm sure that she and possibly Representative McGee are going to have legislation in 2021. So we'll be looking out for that.
Well, that was a great update, Representative Davis. Thank you so much. You're, I always like it when everybody reminds people of their involvement with small business. Somebody always has, an involvement, and you're either a family business or somebody, and so it touches everybody. And you were a guardian. You were a guardian awardee with us your first term because you were a huge champion and your good times on the Ways and Means Committee in that first term you had.
Oh my Lord, yes. And I will always be a champion for small business. It is no secret that Louisiana depends on our small business partners. Again, it is the backbone of our economy here in Louisiana. And I know that Senator Reese and Senator Mcmaster share in that feeling that whatever we need to do to promote economic growth of small businesses, we are here to help.
As Chairwoman, I'll throw this question to you, as Chairwoman of Commerce. I know you see a lot of really contentious issues. It's surprising how contentious commerce gets sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know that broadband and issue, we kind of weighed in on this from a perspective of, hey, let's be sure our rural businesses are not, they have every resource they need, especially now. So that has been a big issue, like you said, and that licensing form one keeps just. It's a bear. What do you kind of see? I know you said Julie Emerson, Representative Emerson will come back with another bill. Do you see it getting where it needs to be by the time we get out of this term, where we can get anything done?
It's like you said, it is a bear because there are so many different factions and factors that weigh in on it. You want to be able to make it easy for people to come into Louisiana and do business. However, you don't want to hurt the people that are already there and have already gone through those processes and make it an unfair advantage. Right. So yeah, I do see and I have not had a conversation with Representative Emerson since this past session about her licensing initiatives, but I am sure that that is something that she's going to continue to push. And I would welcome any input from your NFIB members on, those of you that do have to get licensed and do go through those hurdles. Give me your thoughts and give me your suggestions on those. Another thing I will say is my Commerce Committee is a very young committee. Most of my members are freshman representatives, so they're still learning about all of these issues because, of course, we rely on you lobbyists to inform us on. We can't possibly, maybe someone can, I don't know, but I cannot possibly go through all the bills that are filed. I go through all of my commerce bills, but I rely on the expertise of you guys to let me know good, bad legislation, good, bad policy. And so regarding licensing, I would more than welcome an education for not only myself, but my committee members. Because like I said, my committee is a very young committee. Most of them are freshmen. So they're still learning about all the issues that the Commerce Committee oversees, and licensing is one part of it, but it's a big part of it for small businesses. So, over the next 6 months, I would love to have those conversations so that we can all be much more informed of those hurdles that small businesses see with licensing.
That's great. And what we'll do is definitely reach out to our members and get that feedback for you. And
that would be great.
Also see what other states have done. One of the opportunities we have is that, we are a nationwide organization, and there's definitely other states who've had to tackle this as well. So maybe we kind of see what has worked elsewhere and figure out what maybe works here.
Yeah, we definitely don't need to reinvent the wheel. This is something that I know that other national organizations have been pushing. So I'm sure that there are some states that have done it the right way and some states that have not. And let's go ahead and look at the best practices for that arena and go from there. And on the broadband issue, I want to say that we have an amazing, I'm so proud of our congressional delegation and so excited with the folks that we have there now, because they're all very intelligent, very aggressive, and just love the state of Louisiana. And they all work together so well. And especially on the broadband issue, because that's not only a Louisiana issue, but that's a national issue. And they have worked tirelessly on the broadband issue and getting access to those rural communities. And most of Louisiana is rural, and we have about 180,000 households that do not have broadband access. So they have been great in working with our local delegations on that issue.
Great. Well, and you made the point, and Senator Reese made the point as well. We do have a great congressional delegation, and Congressman Johnson being on with us, illustrates that. And and I know you have a great relationship with Congressman Graves here in our area. But again, it's not just our areas, but it's the fact that we all work together so well. So thank you for your time. I know you're busy and you have a lot going on, and we just really appreciate you always being a champion for small business, always reaching out when there's an opportunity for feedback. I appreciate that relationship with you, and thank you for all your hard work. And I know we've got a lot ahead of us in 2021.
We do, but thank y'all so much. I appreciate the opportunity, Dawn.
Well, good. Thank you. And so we're going to jump to Senator Mcmaster now. I believe he is on with us. Senator Mcmaster, we have you. I saw a 985 number. And I just texted him. So let me see if he's, hopefully
Can you hear?
There you are. There you are. We can hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now. So
Yeah.
Senator
Hey,
Mathis,
Don.
hey, we're so thankful to have you on and appreciate you taking the time. We like Senator Reese, Senator Mcmaster is a newbie, but getting the shine worn off really quickly after this year. So congratulations on your win last fall and in taking on some important committee work this year. You got the great assignment of Senate Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, and y'all have a lot of work ahead of you. You did a lot of great stuff this session too. So I just wanted to turn it over to you, kind of get your feedback on the good stuff y'all accomplished this year, and then really looking ahead to 2021 as we look at this fiscal session and how do we help small business recover from all this.
Yeah, Dawn. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on. I had every intention of jumping on with my computer and a screen and my suit that I have on now, and I opened it up and it had crashed on me. So very 2020 start to the call, but
Exactly.
but I'm glad I'm
Well, we've got your
we can do it
picture
this way.
up. We've got your picture up, and just like Congressman Johnson, it's one from I think 1987. So you're all good.
Perfect. Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, go. I mean, I would first. I think a quick overview of kind of some of the things y'all did in Rev and Fisk this year. If you can kind of rattle off for us, I think when we looked at some of the things for 2020, it wasn't a fiscal session; it was a regular session,
Sure.
and then everything got halted. So I know y'all had a few things come through that were positive for small business. The inventory tax. Bills that were temporary. Senator Reese helped with one, Senator Ward with another.
Yeah, so we were, obviously we weren't, I don't think any of us were expecting to deal with, a global pandemic and the subsequent economic fallout that has, followed that. And so, I think a lot of the stuff that we were able to put together in Rev and Fisk, and like you said, Senator Reese did a great job of carrying a handful of those bills, really dealt with some limited temporary relief to certain businesses and industries, and it originated out of that committee, and it was one of the many accomplishments, I think. One of the shining spots that came out of both the regular session and the two special sessions that we had. Obviously, I think those were temporary fixes, like I said. Next session is really going to be where the rubber meets the road as far as hopefully putting together a full-blown tax reform package, a series of bills that are going to be offered with the lead of Chairman Alon. I know Senator Reese, myself, Senator Milligan over on the Senate side, obviously Representative Davis over on the House side are going to be playing some pretty big roles when it comes to getting our state in a more competitive posture when it comes to our tax structure. So I look forward to tackling those. I think you kind of got three sort of primary targets, I guess, that are ripe for reform in Louisiana. That's our inventory tax, the corporate franchise tax, and our setting up and establishing a proper constitutionally accurate centralized sales tax collection system in Louisiana as well.
Minor detail.
Yeah, I'd be happy to discuss sort of my thoughts on where
Jump
we're
in
going
on
with that.
those because those are all three very important issues for small business owners. They impact every one of those impacts pretty much everyone, and even if except for those who don't remit sales tax, but the fact that we get such a bad grade and it's such a bad policy does affect us overall. So yeah.
Right. That's right. We rank sort of middle to the back of the pack as far as our tax system is assessed by folks like the Tax Foundation. and some of these other Washington, D.C. think tanks. And I know that Chairman Alon is prioritizing their opinions as far as he sees us. If we can move up in those rankings, we can, again, be considered more competitive when it comes to luring business, not only just luring businesses to Louisiana, but also ensuring that we're not putting our small businesses, our Louisiana small business, at a disadvantage. And I think centralized sales tax collection plays a role in that. It's to tax our local businesses sales tax and not have a proper system set up to where out-of-state vendors are taxed at that same rate, and thereby just making their product less expensive than those in Louisiana. We obviously don't want to penalize Louisiana small businesses and putting them at a disadvantage. So we need to make sure that the playing field is fair across the board, in state or out of state. And I think implementing a centralized sales tax system that is uniform is key in that goal. Plus, quite frankly, we do things very differently in a lot of different ways in Louisiana. And there's been a series of federal Supreme Court rulings, state Supreme Court rulings that have made it very clear that we really need to modify, reform, and quite frankly, just get our house in order when it comes to centralized sales tax collection, in order to, one, capture more tax revenue without having to raise taxes, which those are obviously things that we could use to fund schools, roads, health, early childhood education, that kind of stuff, and just simply not having the proper system in place is just silly, quite frankly.
Yep.
So, and we have one of the other sort of antiquated tax structures that we have right now is the inventory tax, which it's funny. It's doing a lot of research over the past several weeks, not just in anticipation of this call, but also for the upcoming session. And it seems across the board that everyone can agree on that the inventory tax is bad, right? It doesn't make sense, and it needs to be addressed. But the big question is how do we go about addressing it, right? So when I say that it's pretty clearly that it's an issue, it's back in '92, the legislature established an inventory tax credit. So obviously back then people thought it wasn't good policy, and I think that thought carries through today. But the problem is parish and local governments rely on this funding. Some parishes it accounts for about 40% of their budget. 40% of their budget. St. John, St. James Parish, I think in particular, derives 40% of their budget revenue derives from inventory tax. So it's not as simple as just doing away with not only the credit but also the tax. We really need to get buy-in and reassure our local governments that we're not gonna hang them up high and dry, because that wouldn't be fair. So that's a big question to answer, and quite frankly, I don't have that answer right now. I hope to lean on some of the other folks that have been in and around the legislature for a little bit longer, and let's see if we can't put our heads together and figure out how we can, one, do away with bad tax policy, which would help us become more competitive, but two, ensure that we're not doing away with key spending measures in regards to our local municipalities and local governments who rely on this money. So it's a complicated question to answer, but we have to answer it.
Yeah, and we've talked about this issue to your point, Senator Allen, the chairman of the committee has worked on this issue. We were on a task force he put together several years back, and the rubber always meets the road when local governments are asked, what's the best solution. And so, unraveling that is going to be a big issue. It's kind of the bear of your committee, kind of like Representative Davis's bear of broadband and licensing reform. So it seems like you all have a few bears to deal with. I know we also you wanted to talk a little bit about the corporate and franchise tax, which some of our members are impacted by, some that are structured as corporations. I know you and I have talked about the structure of small business. So many of them are filed as individuals and through their individual tax returns, but there are a segment that do file as corporate. So talk a little bit about that piece as well.
Yeah, so the corporate franchise tax it's probably a little bit lighter lift, I guess, than the inventory tax. One, it doesn't generate there's minimal revenue is generated from the corporate the corporate franchise tax. The complexity and the burdens that are created by the tax, I don't think they warrant the comparatively minimal revenue gain and that the tax generates, like I was saying. So I think it's a little bit easier lift. Just to give some background, Louisiana has collected the franchise tax on corporations since I think 1932. So we're going back to the Huey Long years. It was originally assessed in exchange for the privilege of doing business in the state of Louisiana. So again, very antiquated. States just don't do this anymore.
Right.
And because the tax is assessed on corporations, capital stock, plant, and personal property, in addition to any of the surplus or undivided profits, it applies, and this is important, it really applies to the profitability and unprofitability of businesses alike, which places, a greater strain on new capital intensive and or, narrow margin, I guess, firms. So it stifles growth, right? And there needs to be a way to do away with this altogether, quite frankly. And I think we can, one of the ways to really address this is if I know some states have tied their corporate tax, and they don't give the option of, or it allows companies to have the option of either the franchise tax or corporate which supposed to go to the tax. So then, I think if you tie all that together, you might have an opportunity to.
We lost you on the sound a little bit, Senator.
I'm sorry. To lower the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, better.
We might have an opportunity to lower the corporate tax rate, broaden the base by doing away with some. Some of the, excuse me, I'm drawing a blank. Some of the tax credits, and that will allow us, I think, to steer clear of the franchise tax altogether. But again, it's an antiquated tax policy that hurts us, hurts our competitive advantage, and it's an opportunity that we'll have to address in the next session. I'll say this, as far as timing goes with all of these reforms, what's the saying is, with great trouble comes great opportunity. I think we have a chance to sort of use the turmoil of 2020 and convince some folks that, look, this is an opportunity for us to reform and change and come out of all this in a better posture. And so it's kind of like now or never, right? We've got this is the first fiscal session that we have. It is my understanding that obviously the next fiscal session we'll be an election year, which typically not much gets accomplished. So this is such an important year as coming up in 2021 to really make a push for some reforms. And I look forward to being a part of that. And obviously the support that NFIB and you give, Dawn, when it comes to considering the small businesses, which has been said before. I think Representative Davis said this is obviously the backbone of Louisiana's economy. So you are a vital partner when it comes to these policy discussions, and I appreciate all the input that you provide to all of us. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I think you and Senator Reese being new, but also bringing so much to the table. You have a background in city and local government, and you have a background too in family business, and Senator Reese being being business, and Representative Davis being in business. It's really one of probably the most exciting things about your term. Going in before everything went south earlier this year, but it was kind of the most exciting thing that we had so many people with such great backgrounds coming to the table in the legislature for the first time in a long time. It felt like we had a great group of folks who understand the meaning of signing the front of a paycheck, not just the back, and that makes all the difference in the world when you're setting policy. And so I know you will have a heavy lift on Rev and Fisk in April, and we as well as Senator Reese will being on that committee with you, and we just ask, and we can partner with you and have that open door of communication, because that's kind of the biggest thing, is being able to at least have you hear us out, because sometimes the voice of small business can get lost in some of these bigger issues.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think, like you said, with the background of being a small business owner and operator, quite frankly, Mike and I, we really don't have a choice because we're dealing with what we know, and we obviously want to acknowledge how important small businesses are to Louisiana, and it is humbling at times to be put in a position where we really can have a substantial effect on individuals and their businesses. But I know I speak for Mike when I say this, so we're really looking forward to tackling this and trying to make a positive change for Louisiana. In fact, I think we're headed up to DC in January, and I think we might make one or two other trips and really dig into some real solutions when it comes to our tax policy in Louisiana. So I'm looking forward to getting started.
That'll be great, and we'll definitely connect you with our folks in DC too, so y'all can either connect or visit as well, because we work closely with Tax Foundation and those organizations as well, Cost and those guys. We partner with them a lot in DC, so that's wonderful, and thank you. I know you're busy and have a lot on your plate as well, so we really appreciate you taking the time to jump on this call with our members and provide the insight that you have. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Dawn. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, members and guests, I would just want to again thank everybody for their time. We've had a great discussion today of a lot of pressing and timely issues affecting small business owners across the state of Louisiana. We know that you are struggling in this time of economic challenges with the COVID shutdowns and reopenings and restrictions and everything else. And so what we want to be sure is that you can call us and let us know what your concerns are and tell us what we can do to help you. We have been working diligently to provide webinars and information from the federal level. And again, events like this, thanks to our sponsors, Cox Business and Hancock Whitney, that allow us to get the word out about other important issues affecting us at the state level, and just really maximizing our partnerships, both with our congressional delegation and with our great friends and champions like Senator Reese, Representative Davis, and Senator Mcmaster in the Louisiana legislature. And we look forward to continuing the great work on your behalf, small business owners. And please, again, reach out. Dawn Starnes at dawn.starnes@nfib.org is my email, and cell is 225-287-4626. I'm available whenever you need me, and here to help you deal with government challenges whenever you face them, because we know you have a lot of them. So thank you again, and have a great day, and keep up the great work y'all are doing out there.